I'm Joshua Bennett, 28 years old, and I never imagined I'd be the one to unravel my family's hidden scheme. The dinner started like any Sunday gathering at my parents' house in Alpharetta, but everything felt way off. My mom's smile stretched too wide, like she was auditioning for a role. My dad cracked jokes he'd never touch, awkward and forced. My older brother kept calling me the family's shining star, which he'd never done before, not once. Even my aunt, usually quiet, chimed in with praise that sounded rehearsed. My gut screamed something was wrong. I cataloged every forced laugh, every sidelong glance, every overly sweet compliment. By the time dessert hit the table, a chocolate pie I hadn't seen since childhood holidays. Something in me snapped. I let out a sharp laugh, cutting through their chatter like a knife. The room froze. "You are my gold," my parents said in unison, their faces tight with something I couldn't name. Everyone my brother. My aunt looked at me with eyes that screamed conspiracy. I leaned back, smiled, and said, "No need to act no exceptions." Their jaws dropped, faces pale as ghosts. "I'm done with all of you," I added, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "I know what you're plotting against me." The silence was deafening, their masks slipping for the first time. If you've ever caught your family scheming behind your back, drop a comment with where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to find out how I exposed their plan and turned the tables. Growing up in suburban Atlanta shaped who I am today. I was always the logical one in the family, the kid who fixed computers instead of playing sports. I graduated with honors in computer science from Georgia Tech and landed a job as an IT security analyst at a top firm in Midtown Atlanta. My career skyrocketed, and by 26 I bought a sleek condo in Buckhead, something my parents took much longer to achieve at my age. We presented as a tight-knit unit, the kind that hosted neighborhood BBQs and holiday parties everyone envied. But underneath was a tangle of rivalry, bitterness, and dominance that defined us from the start. My mother, Renee Bennett, ran the household like a boardroom, a former corporate executive who quit to raise kids. She poured her ambition into directing our every move. Nothing met her standards unless it followed her script. She had a talent for veiled insults disguised as advice. Like Joshua, that shirt choice is bold for your build. Or, your condo is quaint, some folks like compact living for less hassle. My father, Douglas Bennett, complimented her perfectly as the family mediator, a salesman who thrived on closing deals. He brought home his charm by dodging arguments with humor or topic shifts. This maintained surface harmony, but fueled my mother's dominance and forced us to bury our emotions. "Your mom has good intentions," he'd mutter after her sharp comments. "Just roll with it. Josh, she doesn't handle pushback well." Then there was my older brother, Nicholas Bennett, 2 years ahead but always the favored one, while I was methodical and introverted. Nicholas was outgoing and slick. He studied marketing, worked in advertising, and excelled at claiming my wins as his influence, like telling relatives I got that internship through his connections, which was a total fabrication. He'd downplay his own flops while amplifying my missteps, turning family talks into competitions. Our family tensions escalated over the past year as my job advanced. I earned a major promotion, becoming one of the youngest lead analysts at the firm, with whispers of management track ahead. My financial freedom and success unsettled the balance, especially for my mother, who expected to remain the provider. When I suggested using my network to refinance their mortgage at a lower rate, she shut it down flat. "We've handled our money fine for years without your input, Joshua," she said with a stiff grin. "Better focus on your own path, markets can turn fast." The subtle undermining had been there since childhood, but I'd only recently spotted the trend's remarks on my looks, jabs at my limited social circle, endless contrasts to Nicholas, or cousins who'd married and started families instead of chasing careers. The odd behaviors kicked off about 3 months ago. Phone calls home would include background whispers that cut off abruptly. Texts veered away when I probed certain subjects. A couple times, I entered rooms at their Alpharetta house to see them stashing away documents. Nicholas suddenly fixated on my work hours, quizzing me about travel for security audits or late-night stuff he'd ignored before, usually tuning out my tech talk. "Heading to the office this weekend?" he'd ask casually. Or, "How's your PTO setup? Can you dip out anytime?" The special family dinner invite came last week. My mother called with that overly bright tone signaling trouble, insisting we all attend for an important chat. "We miss quality time. Dear, it's been ages since a real sit-down meal. As an IT security analyst trained to detect breaches and anomalies, I sensed the mismatches right away, like code that compiles but hides vulnerabilities. I showed up to that dinner alert, my instincts primed. Little did I know how right they were. The evening sun dipped low as I pulled into my parents' driveway in Alpharetta. Both cars sat outside the garage, unusual for them, as if clearing space inside. The porch glowed with all lights on, more than their typical single bulb. I adjusted my jacket, a work habit for high-stakes meetings, and headed to the door. It opened before I knocked. My mother, in a formal dress I'd seen only at charity events, pulling me into a hug laced with too much perfume. "Joshua, right on time as ever," she said, her voice overly warm. The house smelled of fried chicken and biscuits, my childhood favorite. I noted the deliberate choice as she led me to the dining room, reserved for big occasions like Thanksgiving. The table shone with heirloom china from my grandmother, usually locked away, and crystal glasses sparkled under a dimmed chandelier. My father stood up, another odd formality in a collared shirt and blazer, instead of his usual polo. "Here's our tech genius," he boomed with exaggerated enthusiasm, pulling out my chair. "We were just talking about how fortunate we are to have such a sharp son. Right, Nicholas?" My brother sat opposite, in a new button-up, hair styled fresh. He nodded with a grin that missed his eyes. "Totally. The best brother out there. I was telling them how I respect your grind at work." Nicholas had never respected my job, often mocking it as geek stuff and zoning out during my stories. I sat down, senses heightened by the spotlight on me. "What's this all about?" I asked straight, skipping small talk. "Can't we just celebrate family?" my mother replied, pouring an expensive red wine beyond their normal budget. The meal dragged with awkward exchanges. My father shared stories he'd usually skip at family tables. My mother piled my plate with seconds before others finished firsts. Nicholas probed my routine and ambitions. "Any thoughts on next moves?" he asked, fiddling with his fork but not eating. "Career-wise, you planning to stick at that firm forever?" "I'm content there," I said cautiously. "Leadership opportunities are coming faster than planned. But you might want better balance someday." My mother cut in swiftly. "That condo of yours has so much room for one person, kind of empty. Don't you think?" "It's perfect for me," I shot back, spotting my father's uneasy glance her way. "After Maine's." Nicholas vanished briefly and returned with a wrapped box, setting it by my plate dramatically. "A token of our appreciation," he said, eyes fixed as I opened it. Inside was a high-end laptop bag, pricier than his ad salary could cover. I thanked him quietly, unease growing from the odd lavishness. As my mother fetched dessert from the kitchen, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, shielding the screen when she saw me looking. My father got a message seconds later, sharing a loaded look with her that set my alarms blaring. To fresh starts and the shifts ahead. My father toasted, his third that night. Family comes first, and tough choices protect those we cherish. What shifts? I pressed. He faltered. You know, life stuff. Nicholas could get a bump up. Your mother might restart her consulting gig. Things change. Clearing plates. I caught whispers from the kitchen. Hold off, my mother said. We wait for Dr. Vance's call tomorrow. But the forms must go in by end of week to proceed, my father replied softly. They hushed as I walked in with dishes. During dessert, a fruit tart saved for milestones, Nicholas checked his phone discreetly. I glimpsed texts to Dr. V about Jay's case and post-dinner steps. My mother pivoted talk to my workload, quizzing how I cope with pressure. Those long days must wear on you, dear. Does your company provide mental support resources? I'm managing fine, I stated firmly. My wellness is solid, thanks. These things can sneak up, she pushed. Remember your cousin's college episode caught everyone off guard. As coffee came, my father dropped a comment that pieced it all together. We've been discussing your condo. Joshua's such a big commitment. If you needed a break from the grind, you could stay here. Your room's ready. And we could handle renting it out while you recharge. It clicked, the faked affection. The gifts. The schedule probes. The health hints. The secret messages. The finance talks. They were setting up to claim I was cracking under stress, to seize my assets and control. Fury surged, but I set my cup down calmly. This evening's been interesting, I said evenly, but I'm done with all of you. The table went silent, their expressions crumbling in shock. My mind raced as I drove back to Buckhead that night. The dinner's orchestrated warmth, the laptop bag, the whispered kitchen talk all pointed to a calculated move. I silenced my phone, ignoring the flood of texts from my mother and brother, and poured a rare glass of whiskey to steady my nerves. By morning, my analyst instincts kicked in, the same ones that uncovered data breaches at work. I started digging into their plan, determined to expose it. First, I accessed my parents' financial portal, using login details from last year's tax prep. What I found chilled me 3 withdrawals totaling $40,000 over the past month, each labeled Family Project. A payment of $3,500 went to Dr. Harold Vance, marked as a consultation fee. A quick search revealed he was a psychiatrist specializing in workplace stress and crisis interventions. His website boasting testimonials from families who saved loved ones from collapse. My suspicion deepened. This was a setup, not concern. Next, I checked my brother's social media. His privacy settings always lax. His saved posts included listings for condos in Atlanta far cheaper than my Buckhead place, bookmarked within the last 4 weeks. He'd joined a private group called Helping Family Through Stress Crises around the same time. I recalled sharing my laptop password with Nicholas during a visit when his phone died. My browser history from those days showed his searches selling property with power of attorney and temporary conservatorship for mental health. The intent was clear. Using my IT skills, I accessed my mother's email through an old family-shared cloud login she hadn't revoked. A draft to my Aunt Lori read, Joshua's showing signs of burnout. Dr. Vance says we must act fast before he spirals. Her browser history revealed searches for Riverside Center, a private facility with 90-day minimum stays, costing $20,000 per month, easily funded by selling my condo. Another search covered managing resistance in mental health interventions, with notes on convincing courts of incapacity. The scope was staggering. They planned to declare me unfit, seize my finances, and liquidate my assets. I needed more proof, using a burner email, posing as an assistant at my father's firm. I contacted their family lawyer's office to confirm a meeting. The receptionist replied, Mr. and Mrs. Bennett have a consultation Thursday at 3 p.m. for guardianship options. My heart sank, but anger steadied me. I called our neighbor Mark Larson, pretending to check in post-dinner. Your folks said you're under pressure, he offered. They're fixing your old room for a long stay, months, maybe more. My contractor could help. I thanked him, masking shock. They were planning a takeover, not a check-in, cross-referencing dates. I saw the withdrawals aligned with Nicholas's condo searches, starting post-promotion. The lawyer meeting was days away, signaling urgency. My mother's email draft to Lori cited Dr. Vance. Act while Joshua seems rational to strengthen the case. Another email mentioned a family meeting to finalize steps. Each discovery tightened the knot in my chest. But clarity replaced panic. My family thought I'd miss their digital footprints, underestimating my skills. As an IT security analyst, I knew how to trace and protect. I saved screenshots of emails, browser histories, and financial records on an encrypted drive. I documented every finding with timestamps, building an airtight case. My next move was to fortify my defense, to turn their plan against them. They wanted to control my life, but I was steps ahead, ready to dismantle their scheme with evidence they couldn't deny. With evidence mounting, I shifted to building my counterattack. I first called my college friend Ryan Tate, a family law specialist who'd stayed close since our Georgia Tech days. I laid out the findings clinically, without emotion. "This is troubling, Josh," he said after reviewing the screenshots I sent. "Your mother contacted me last week, asking about power of attorney for an adult child in distress. I thought it was for a hypothetical client. Now it connects." His confirmation erased any lingering doubt. Their plot was real, and I needed safeguards fast. Next, I reached out to my therapist, Dr. Denise Ford, whom I'd seen monthly for 2 years to handle job pressures. I booked an urgent session and detailed the scheme. "Based on our history, I've seen no signs of instability or crisis," she noted. "Your reactions are measured and appropriate." She agreed to draft a formal statement affirming my mental clarity, adding observations on family patterns of overreach that matched my descriptions. Armed with that, I contacted Monica Hale, a lawyer at my firm focused on asset protection and competency disputes. I presented the digital trail objectively. "They're laying groundwork for conservatorship," she confirmed. "We need to lock down your finances." We established a trust for my liquid assets, naming Ryan and my grad school mentor as trustees, people outside the family circle. Monica also coordinated letters from my primary doctor and boss, both vouching for my sharp judgment and steady performance. A colleague in digital forensics helped secure audio from recent calls, where my mother's leading questions aimed to provoke outbursts. In one, she said, "We all face rough patches. Dear, there's no stigma in needing support, like your cousin did." I'm not in denial. "Mom, I don't require treatment," I replied calmly. "That's what someone resisting might say," she countered, her tone laced with false sympathy. "It aligns with Dr. Vance's insights." The recordings were legal, as I'd notified them at the start for family clarity. I compiled every interaction with dates and notes, creating a solid record of their tactics. I pulled my financial statements, showing prudent management and growth, plus performance reviews highlighting my expertise. To counter isolation, I reconnected with neglected friends, sharing the situation. Their outrage bolstered me. Ryan flew in from his office downtown, reviewing documents over coffee in my condo. "I can't fathom they'd go this far," he said. "But given your mother's history, it tracks. She's always orchestrated everything." We discussed how they'd fostered dependence, limiting outside views to control the narrative. Preparing for their next step was crucial. Monica advised letting their gathering unfold somewhat before revealing my hand. "The more they commit, the harder to backpedal," she explained. I practiced responses with Dr. Ford, focusing on staying composed under provocation. "If they label you paranoid," she asked, How will you respond? I'll present facts without accusation, I said. I get you think this helps. But here's proof of my stability. Over 3 days, I refined the strategy. Monica ensured the trust was ironclad. Dr. Ford sealed her assessment for presentation. Ryan stood ready as a witness. I chose a professional suit for the event, one I wore to client audits, to project competence. I organized a binder with key documents, their emails, my medical letters, the recordings, the night before their planned session. My mother texted, "We're hosting a casual get-together tomorrow at 2. Just close ones who care about you, please join." I replied curtly, "I'll be there." They expected a vulnerable target instead. I'd arrive armed to reclaim my independence. I arrived at my parents' house in Alpharetta precisely at 2. The street was lined with extra cars, my Aunt Laurie's sedan, a colleague of my father's SUV, and a sleek black car I pegged for Dr. Harold Vance. I gripped my leather binder, filled with evidence, and approached the door. It swung open before I knocked, my father's smile tight with strain. "Josh." "Right on time," he said, guiding me inside. The living room was rearranged into a loose circle, meant to seem casual but feeling like a courtroom. My mother sat in her usual armchair, her face a mask of practiced concern. Nicholas perched on the couch beside Aunt Laurie, both stiff, 2 family friends, the Wilsons, sat awkwardly near the window, a silver-haired man in a suit. Dr. Vance held a notebook, positioned slightly apart. "Joshua, thank you for coming," my mother began, her voice syrupy but calculated. "We've gathered those who care about you to discuss something serious." I took the central seat, facing Dr. Vance, binder on my lap. "What's the purpose?" I asked calmly. She glanced at Dr. Vance, who nodded subtly. "We're worried about you, dear," she said. "You've been working grueling hours, pulling away from us, acting guarded." My father leaned forward. "We saw it at dinner. Your outburst seemed off." Aunt Laurie nodded. "We just want you to be okay." "Josh, stress can hit hard." I turned to Dr. Vance. "And you are Dr. Harold Vance," he replied, voice smooth. "A stress specialist, here to offer perspective." "On someone you've never evaluated?" I asked evenly. His smile flickered. "I'm a consultant, not your doctor." "I see," I said. "And the goal of this talk," my mother inhaled sharply, reaching her script's core. "We believe you're struggling with stress-related issues, possibly burnout. We suggest taking a break from work, staying here, and working with Dr. Vance." "And my condo," I pressed. My father jumped in. "Renting it out could ease the burden while you focus on recovery." The room tensed. They'd hoped I wouldn't resist. If I say no, I asked. My mother's tone hardened. "We're prepared to take formal steps to ensure you get help, like temporary guardianship for your well-being." Silence gripped the room. I opened my binder. "Let me clarify," I said. Voice steady. "You think I'm burned out because I called out your scheme? You've consulted Dr. Vance without meeting me, withdrawn $40,000 for a family project, booked a lawyer for guardianship, and searched for Riverside Center to fund a 90-day stay with my condo's sale." I laid out evidence screenshots of my mother's email to Laurie about my burnout, Nicholas's condo listings, browser searches for conservatorship, the financial withdrawals, my recorded calls. "These aren't signs of stress," I said. Eyeing Dr. Vance, offering a diagnosis without examination violates ethics. I've filed a complaint with the medical board. His face paled, notebook snapping shut. "This is a misunderstanding," my mother stammered, composure cracking. "We only want to protect you." "Protect me," I countered, "or control my assets because my success threatens you." Nicholas broke, voice shaking. I was jealous. Okay, you've got the big job, the fancy condo. Mom and Dad always rave about you. I wanted their attention. Aunt Lori looked stunned. I thought we were helping, she mumbled. The Wilsons stood. This feels private, they said, exiting quickly. Dr. Vance gathered his things. My services aren't needed here, he said stiffly, leaving. I faced my family. You plan to strip my independence, to sell my home, to lock me away. That's not love, it's betrayal. My mother's eyes welled up, but her jaw set. You're twisting this. Joshua. No, I said, standing. I'm seeing clearly. You misjudged me, and now you face the consequences. I walked out, their protests fading behind me, my binder proof of their unraveling scheme. The drive back to Buckhead felt final. I had walked out on my family, leaving their protests behind, my binder heavy with the truth of their betrayal. My phone stayed silent, no calls, no texts chasing me. The quiet was eerie, but it gave me space to process the fallout. I threw myself into a new project at work, a complex cybersecurity audit that demanded focus, and waited for their next move. Part of me braced for legal threats, but none came. Instead, the consequences unfolded on their own, rippling through their lives in ways they hadn't anticipated. Weeks later, word spread through Alpharetta's tight-knit community. My mother's consulting side hustle, built on her polished reputation, crumbled as neighbors whispered about the scheme. A key client dropped her after hearing she'd planned to control my finances, citing trust issues, her social standing, so carefully curated. Took a hit, invitations to local charity events dried up, and her name faded from community boards. My father faced his own reckoning. His habit of smoothing over conflicts failed when their marriage strained under the exposure. Arguments escalated, audible through thin suburban walls, and by month's end, he moved into a small apartment downtown, a separation that stunned their circle. Nicholas's career stalled. His firm passed him over for a promotion when a colleague, aware of the family drama, questioned his integrity. His charm couldn't erase the stain of his jealousy-driven role. Aunt Lori, who'd believed she was helping, found herself sidelined. Relatives distanced themselves, uncomfortable with her involvement, leaving her isolated at family gatherings she once hosted. Each consequence was a direct result of their actions, grounded in the reality of a small community where reputation matters. I felt the weight of their betrayal in waves. Grief hit first, sharp and unexpected, not just for their plot, but for the family I'd thought I had. I mourned the kid who chased their approval, the teen who swallowed their critiques, the adult who doubted his own instincts. Anger followed, raw and clarifying, burning through years of suppressed frustration. In sessions with Dr. Denise Ford, I unpacked it all. Your anger signals violated boundaries, she said. It's valid, use it to rebuild your own path. I did. I leaned into my career, securing a major contract that cemented my role at the firm. My condo in Buckhead became my sanctuary, not a bargaining chip. I strengthened ties with friends like Ryan Tate, who checked in regularly, offering support without pity. Their encouragement countered the isolation my family had tried to impose. I set firm boundaries, blocking their numbers and emails, ensuring no further manipulation. The legal safeguards Monica Hale had put in place my trust. The documented evidence protected my assets from any future moves. I considered filing a civil suit for attempted fraud, but chose to let their self-inflicted losses speak instead. Their plan had backfired, costing them more than they'd ever gain. Reflecting on it, I saw the deeper lesson. Trusting my instincts had saved me. Their attempt to rewrite my reality, labeling me unstable to seize control, failed because I held firm to my truth. Manipulation thrives in silence, but evidence and clarity dismantle it. In America, where autonomy is prized, protecting your independence means standing tall, even against those closest to you. I learned to seek support: early friends, professionals, legal advisors before a scheme takes root. If you faced family betrayal, how did you reclaim your truth? Share below. Like and subscribe if this resonated, and pass it to someone navigating similar shadows. Your reality is yours to defend always.